Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my studio. In this video, I'd like to show you a quick and easy way to cut the rim off a dropout vase. Now this tool and this technique can seem a little scary because you put a lot of time and effort into this beautiful vase and now you're going to take a saw to it and cut it off. Oh my gosh, but I'm going to show you that this can be manageable and you can do it too.
The cool thing about a dropout vase is you can get a shape and a style that you otherwise cannot create in the kiln. To make one, you stack 4 or 5 or even 6 layers of glass together, and then you fire it to a full fuse temperature to create one big, thick, heavy blank. Here I'm creating a very simple design by having a pale blue, like an aqua blue on one layer, and then a steel blue on the other. Then I'm including some dichroic pieces. I found when making a drop vase, a simpler, more basic pattern seems to be more effective because you get, when the drop happens and when the glass falls through that opening, you get a lot more action. You get some stretching and some mixing of those colors. So if your design is really complicated, it kind of gets muddy. So when making these, I usually refer to simpler is better, less design is better. Just keep it really basic. And I think you'll have more successful, more pleasing results with your finished piece. Now, of course, that's my artistic opinion, and I've made several of these, and that just seems to be the way I like to, the direction I like to go. Of course, when you're making your own, feel free to get a little more elaborate, add more pattern, more design, do what makes you feel happy and that makes this project fun to create. When firing thick glass like this, we have to contain it in order to retain that size and shape that we want. Now this is about a 7-inch circle. So in order to retain that 7-inch circle, I'm wrapping the glass with a piece of thin fiber paper and then a piece of 1/8 inch thick fiber paper. And we're surrounding that with kiln posts in order to contain this glass to retain the shape and the thickness of the blank that we're creating. You could overlap the thin fire paper, and that works great, but when it comes to the 1/8 inch material, you want to butt the two ends together. Otherwise, your circle blank will have a bump there, and sometimes that can create an issue for you when it comes time to finish the piece. The reason we need the glass really thick is that when we place this glass on top of a dropout mold, it's a ceramic mold with the center missing. We prop that mold up on kiln posts, and then we have this glass drop through the center of that donut hole. When that happens, the glass stretches and pulls, and it becomes much, much thinner. So you have to start with a really thick blank in order to have a decent thickness in the finished vase. The vase comes out really delicate and elegant. It's really a beautiful style, but the construction seems a little strange that you have to start so thick. So we're going to fire this to a full fuse temperature, and here's the piece coming out of the kiln. Remember, I like simpler is better on this type of construction, but of course, you can get as elaborate with your pattern and design as you'd like. This was fired on a primed ceramic kiln shelf. I used fiber paper, thin fiber paper, and then 1/8 inch thick fiber paper to contain the glass. And I held that paper in place with kiln posts. Look how beautiful that design is. Very simple, but pretty. So I have the light blue overlapping the dark blue. So in some areas you see the steel blue or the navy, and other areas you see the aqua. And then in some areas, those two colors overlap, so you get a third blue color. Now we're going to place this piece of glass on top of a fiber paper covered dropout mold. The fiber paper liner on top of the mold prevents the glass from slipping right through the hole, which is not attractive. In the right-hand image, on the right-hand piece of art, you can see that 1/8 inch fiber paper around the glass. Here you see the pieces after they've dropped through the mold. Now I placed a piece of thin fiber paper on the floor of the kiln so that when that glass went down and touched the base of the kiln, I was sure that I'm comfortable and confident that it would not stick to the bottom of my kiln. These are 5-inch kiln posts. You would select the dimension of the kiln post based on the depth of your kiln. The deeper your kiln, the taller a drop vase you can make. Also notice that 1/8 inch thick fiber paper on the right-hand piece of art is really obvious in this image. You don't want to skip that step, or your glass frequently will drop right through that hole and you'll have a puddle on the bottom of the kiln. The trick to a successful dropout mold piece of art or vase is doing some test firings in your kiln and test firings with the number of layers that you intend to use, because every time you fire one of these, it's a little bit different. So even though someone might give you information on specifics as to exactly how to fire it, exactly where to fire it, when to fire it, how high to make the mold off the floor, how many layers to do, it always comes down to you, your kiln, your working style, and how you assemble the project. So keep in mind, you're going to have some variations when you make these, but they're really spectacular and worth the effort. While these pieces of glass were dropping through the mold, I peeked inside the kiln about every 15 minutes until the glass just kissed the bottom of the kiln, and that's when I turned the kiln off and started the annealing process. You can leave the rim on the vase if you want to. The reason I cut it off is because it's kind of thick and bulky looking in comparison to the drop portion of the vase, which is very delicate and elegant. So it's kind of, a contrast of materials and mass. So cutting it off seemed to make sense, and it would create a vase that had a more graceful appearance, and I liked that. The setup to remove the rim is really easy. I have a plastic tub to contain the water. There's a towel lining the tub to protect the glass. I have a variable speed dremel tool with a flexible shaft, a water source to keep that bit and the glass lubricated the entire time we're cutting, and I have a 1.5-inch diamond coated slitter. I have information at the end of the video for sources for you to find this cutting tool. Anytime you're cutting or grinding glass, you want to make sure that the glass and the tool are well lubricated. It keeps the dust down, it ensures that your tool lasts longer because it'll remain sharp, and it reduces heat and friction on the glass, which gives you a better cut. So here we're using a little bottle to squirt water on that slitter while we're cutting through the glass. You go slow and steady, just take your time, go around multiple times, removing a little material here and there until you actually cut through the glass. This whole process of cutting the rim off can take anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 minutes, depending on how thick the glass is, how large the vase is, how big your cutting tool is. The bigger sometimes will cut faster than a smaller one. And you just want to take your time. Don't rush this step, because at this point, part of the vase is removed from the rim. So if you put any tension on this, or pull it or rush it, you're likely to break the entire thing. And as you can see, we've already put a lot of time and effort and material into this, and I love the pattern and the way it came out. So I definitely want to ensure that at this step, we're successful with removing the vase from the rim. You'll find lots of information on making a dropout vase online, but what I caution you to do is go into this type of project with the expectation that you're going to have to do some test firing and you're going to have some varying results. And that's fine, because you're going to learn something from every one of those firings, and you may end up with something that's even cooler than this, which is awesome. So, allow yourself some flexibility there, allow yourself some patience, give yourself the time that's necessary to do your best work and come up with something that you're really proud of. And then when you do come up with something that's really great, you can take that information, that knowledge, and use it, put it forward on other new projects that'll be equally as exciting. Slow and steady is the game here, and keep it well lubricated. Keep that bit wet, keep the glass wet. Now, you could potentially maybe do this in a tub of water, but I will tell you, you will end up getting a bath. This little spinning dremel here shoots water everywhere. So using this small applicator bottle with just dripping the water on the bit works well to keep the mess down. So, a lot of times people say, well, why don't you, drill or cut something in a vat of water? Well, it's like putting a blender in a vat of water. You're going to get water everywhere. So, and if that's the only setup that works for you and with this, what you have, fine, do it. Do what creates a successful project. All right, so now we've separated the glass from the rim, and the rim is like 3/8 of an inch thick, and the vase is only like an 1/8 inch thick. Now I have a little bump here I'm not crazy about, so I'm going to take this to the grinder, spend a little time there, removing that area and leveling out the edge of the vase. Can you see the thickness of that rim compared to the block of glass we started with? Isn't that amazing? And that's why you need such a thick blank before you put it on that drop mold, because look how much the glass is thinned out and the colors become lighter and they've blended together, and there's some dichroic on here that's stretched, and that looks really beautiful on the finished piece. You'll see some pictures of the finished piece at the end of the video. Here again, this is not a step to rush. You want to take your time, do your best work, and allow the grinding tool to remove that material. Now notice I got plenty of water here because we're using a cutting tool on our glass. That water will lubricate the bit, it lubricates the glass, and it reduces any dust that might be in the air, and it removes any of that material that's being ground away. I am applying a little bit of pressure on that glass because there's quite a bit of material to remove. And I'm not too worried about having it perfectly uniform and even. I just don't care for that specific little bump. Now I'm going to take it to my 12-inch grinder polisher, and I'm using a grinding wheel here. It has like 100 grit diamond dust on there, and I'm pushing down straight to try to level out that top rim of the vase, make it uniform, and give it the same kind of finish all the way around. Now here's a trick. If you don't have a 12-inch grinder polisher or this type of equipment available to you, once you've ground the rim on the grinder, on the regular grinder with the 1-inch bit, you can simply let the glass dry and paint that top rim with some sort of clear acrylic. It could be clear nail polish. It could be clear, clear coat that you might use from a can of paint. Anything, or you could paint it with like a gold paint or something to give that rim a little style. But there are other options for you to make that rim shiny if you don't have a grinder polisher like this. So just look into different ways that you might be able to achieve that. As I'm grinding, I'm trying to push down uniformly to make sure that edge rim quality is straight and level all the way across, and that I have the same kind of ground surface all over on that rim, because when I go to the next step, if this isn't uniform, I'll have to go back and redo this. So that's the trick to grinding and polishing, is spending the time to get that rim uniform before you move on to the next wheel or onto the next step, which is exactly what we're doing here. That's why this is taking a little bit longer. So dropout vases, they require quite a bit of equipment and time and patience, but there's nothing like them. They're really cool. And you could do this on smaller scale. If you wanted to just give it a try, you could make your own dropout ring mold. You could make it out of, fiber paper, fiber board together, any number of things that you can place in the kiln that you could use to create this type of vase or this type of look that's really fun. Here I'm checking the edge quality, and I've decided it's time to move on to the next step, which is the polishing wheel. This wheel is felt, and I'm using this special medium on top of the wheel to create friction and to shine up that edge, create a polish. So I'm painting this on with a regular bristle brush, a natural bristle, natural bristle brush, paintbrush, there we go. And we're going to put this on the wheel. We have a little bit of water there to lubricate it. We want to create a little bit of friction, move this around, and after a few minutes, it'll create a shiny, polished edge that'll reflect the light beautifully and really make this vase very elegant and spectacular. When doing this step, I frequently look at the glass to see my progress. And it's best if you take the glass off and you dry it with a towel, because when it's wet, it looks like the shine is uniform all the way around the rim. But you really have to dry it off to see where there are areas that need a little more attention or a little bit more work. So I'm going to add more of this medium to the felt pad, and this medium kind of washes off as you're going, and it also sticks to the glass. You want to reapply that coating pretty frequently. I am applying a little bit of pressure here to create some friction, which helps improve and brings that shine out of the edge of the glass. Now this is where the previous step is really important. If the previous step hadn't been done where the edge was uniform, you'll never get a uniform shine on that edge either. So patience, and then dry the edge, check it out. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if it's uniform and shiny all the way around. When it is, then we consider the piece done. Here's the vase with the rim intact and with the rim cut off. And look how much more graceful this looks and how it really helps you to focus on the design, the shape, and the height, and the delicacy of the glass. I included some of the information on how I fired this. It was 5 layers of glass. I full fused those layers. Then I placed the fused glass on a drop mold and I fired it to 1300 degrees and held it there anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to get the desired results. Kilns fire differently. Expect to have varying results with your kiln and your materials. I use E6000 adhesive to glue the vase to the riser and that little base piece of glass that I made after the vase was completed.
So take your time, be patient, use the right tool for the right job, and you'll have great success as well. If you like this video, please follow, subscribe, share, and comment. We love it when you comment. It encourages us to do more videos. And when you have your questions, we're happy to answer them. You know, we want to make sure that we keep this ball rolling, this constant flow of information, encouragement, and inspiration. We want to bring this to you, and we love it when you bring those comments and questions to us because it inspires us. And thank you so much for subscribing and following. And make sure you share. We love it when you share. Also, become a premium video member. We'd love to have you. We have new courses coming out all the time. Full-length step-by-step instruction on video, pattern ebook with firing guides, color images, material list, everything you need to make a whole bunch of really beautiful advanced glass fusing courses, projects that you're going to love. So please consider subscribing to the membership. We'd love to have you. And until next time, hope you get to make one of these vases, and happy fusing.